Humanity never expected to meet alien life so soon, and they definitely never expected the first contact to be with a species as powerful as the Vrathi swarm. The Vrathi were known across the galaxy as conquerors, warriors born and trained from childhood to follow their queens without question. Many civilizations feared them. Some vanished when the swarm arrived in their skies. Humanity had only heard about them through scattered distress signals and broken satellites found drifting in space. No one knew if those stories were warnings or misunderstandings, but Earth prepared for the worst. Captain Marcus Hale was a calm and thoughtful man, not the loud or dramatic type. He was good at reading people, good at solving problems, and even better at staying patient in stressful situations. Many said he did not look like a leader, but the military and diplomatic corps trusted him. When the Vrathi fleet appeared near the edge of human territory, Marcus was chosen to lead the diplomatic attempt. Humanity did not want a war. Earth had only just begun to expand into space, and a war with an ancient alien empire could end everything before it truly began. Marcus traveled to the meeting point in a small diplomatic ship. He had soldiers nearby, but he knew that if things went badly, weapons would not save him. The Vrathi transported him into their flagship through a beam of pale blue light. He had expected cold, metal walls, or a dark prison cell. Instead, he found himself standing inside a huge chamber, glowing with amber and gold colors. The walls looked alive, pulsing like the inside of a giant organism. Vrathi guards lined the room, standing in silent formation. Their bodies were tall and armored like living statues, with insect-like features that shimmered under the biolights. Each guard watched Marcus carefully, but none spoke. Marcus was taken deeper into the ship and finally brought before the Vrathi queen herself. She sat on a throne that looked grown rather than built, like a natural part of the ship. Her armored body was dark and elegant, with markings that told stories of battles won and enemies defeated. Her presence alone could make someone freeze in place. Marcus felt small, fragile, and painfully human in comparison, but he forced himself to stand tall. If this was humanity's only chance at peace, he could not show fear. Everyone in the chamber expected the queen to order his execution or demand humanity surrender. Marcus prepared himself for such words. Instead, something surprising happened. The queen studied him, slowly and silently, her many-faceted eyes unreadable. It felt like she was examining his soul rather than his body. After a long pause, she spoke, her voice smooth but powerful. She said that humanity was the first young species she had seen stand against the swarm without begging for mercy. She said that humans had shown courage instead of panic, resolve instead of fear. To the Vrathi, this meant something important. It meant humanity had potential. Marcus did not understand at first. He asked what she meant, and the queen answered in a way that shocked not only him, but also every Vrathi present. She told him she wanted to offer humanity something different from war. She did not want Earth destroyed. She wanted an alliance. Vrathi nobles whispered among themselves. Some clicked their jaws in what Marcus later learned was shock. The swarm never asked for alliances. They conquered. That was all they had ever done. But here their queen was, offering a political union to a species that had not yet left its home star system. Marcus asked why she would choose such a path, and the queen explained with regal calm. She said that for many generations, the swarm had followed the same pattern. Fight, conquer, expand, repeat. But after so long, this path had begun to feel empty. A great empire needed not only strength but also new ideas. Humanity, she believed, could offer those ideas. They could make the empire evolve. That was why she summoned Marcus. Marcus listened carefully, trying to process every word. He had expected threats or terms of surrender, not this strange and historic offer. He asked what kind of alliance she had in mind. The queen stood from her throne and announced something that made the chamber fall silent. She declared that Marcus would join the royal line itself. Not as a prisoner, not as a servant, but as her partner in shaping the future of two civilizations. If he agreed, war would never come to Earth. Instead, humanity would stand beside the swarm as equals. Even Marcus struggled to stay calm at those words. He had come expecting to negotiate trade or territory. Instead, he was being asked to take part in a union that could reshape galactic power forever. The Vrathi nobles looked stunned, some even displeased. The guards stared at Marcus with expressions he could not read. To them, he was a soft, fragile mammal, and yet their queen was offering him a position greater than any Vrathi except herself. Marcus took a deep breath. He wanted to choose his words carefully. He knew that his answer would not only decide his fate, but possibly the fate of every human alive. He asked for time to understand what such a union meant. The queen agreed, and he was escorted from the throne room to private guest quarters. They were cleaner and more comfortable than he expected. The Vrathi seemed to respect their guests, especially ones the queen had chosen. Marcus sat alone in the quiet room, thinking. He imagined the horror of a war with the swarm. He imagined cities destroyed and planets burned. Humanity would not be able to win such a battle. Not yet. But he also worried about joining the Queen's vision. Could humanity trust a civilization built on conquest? Could he guide them toward something better? Would Earth accept such an alliance? Or fear it? He realized something important. The Queen had not chosen him because of his strength. She had chosen him because he represented human thought, human strategy, human possibility. The Vrathi were a society built on power and tradition, but that very tradition had kept them from changing. Marcus saw that the Queen was not looking for a symbolic gesture. She was trying to push her empire forward into a new age, and he was being asked to help. He also realized that if he refused, another diplomat might not be offered the same chance. Humanity might never again be given an opportunity like this. A single no could doom billions of lives. Marcus looked at the alien stars outside the organic window of his room and slowly understood his role. He was not just one man anymore. He was the bridge between two civilizations that had never before shared a peaceful future. He would have to choose carefully, but deep down, he already knew that peace was worth the risk. Marcus Hale woke the next morning feeling as if the galaxy had changed overnight. He had not yet officially answered the Queen, but news of her decision had clearly already spread. The moment he stepped out of his guest room, Vrathi attendants were waiting. They guided him through wide halls that curved like the inside of a giant shell. Everywhere he walked, Vrathi workers and soldiers stopped to stare. None spoke to him, but their staring eyes showed curiosity, confusion, and in some, open disapproval. Humans had barely taken their first steps into space, and now one human might become the most important diplomatic figure in the galaxy. Many Vrathi could not understand how someone without clawed armor, training in hive combat, or decades of service could be considered worthy. Marcus could feel their judgment like a weight on his shoulders, but he forced himself to stay calm. He was taken to the court council chamber, a circular room with seats arranged like petals around a central speaking floor. Each seat belonged to a noble, a general, or a hive governor. Most of them had served the empire for generations. They expected their next leader to be Vrathi, not a newcomer from an unknown world. Marcus took his place in the center, where the Queen waited. When she entered, everyone lowered their heads in respect. She looked the same as before, regal, composed, and unreadable. When she spoke, her voice filled the chamber with authority. She declared that the meeting would discuss the integration of humanity into the empire, and the role Marcus might play. Many nobles reacted immediately. Some raised their concerns. They said that humans were too new, too inexperienced, too untested. Others worried that giving a human influence in royal affairs might weaken the ancient traditions of the swarm. Marcus listened carefully, understanding that what he heard was not anger, but fear. The Vrathi had ruled the same way for thousands of years. Change, especially one this huge, was frightening. Marcus did not interrupt, even though he wanted to defend humanity. He waited until the Queen nodded toward him, signaling his turn to speak. He stepped forward, knowing every eye was on him. He chose simple and honest words. He told the council that humanity did not come to the stars to conquer anyone. Humans came to learn, to explore, and to work together. He admitted humanity was young and made mistakes, but they also grew quickly and adapted well. He promised that humans could bring creativity and new thinking to the Empire, helping both civilizations become stronger without war. His words did not silence the room, but they changed the mood. Some nobles stopped seeing him as an outsider and began seeing him as someone with sincerity and purpose. The Queen watched quietly, letting the council arrive at their own conclusions. After speeches ended, the council dismissed for separate discussions. Marcus remained in the chamber alone with the Queen. She asked what he thought of the meeting. Marcus admitted it was overwhelming but necessary. He told her that trust could not be earned in a single day. He would need to prove himself. The Queen agreed and said that his next steps would determine how the Empire viewed humans. She instructed him to spend time with different parts of the hive: soldiers, workers, scholars, and administrators. If he was to help shape the future of two civilizations, he needed to understand how the Virathi lived. Guides escorted him across different districts of the hive. Marcus first visited the worker district. The workers operated like a well-coordinated machine. But inside that unity, he saw individuality, preferences, humor. Small touches added to their living spaces. Some were proud of their manufacturing designs. Others decorated their work areas with symbols representing family lines. He realized the Virathi were not the cold hive mind humanity had imagined. They had emotions, creativity, and personal pride, just like humans. Marcus also spent time with young trainees. They were learning Virathi history, strategy, and civic responsibility. Their teacher explained that the Empire valued order and memory. Marcus asked the students about their ambitions, and many answered with confidence. Some wanted to become explorers. Others wanted to invent new technologies. Marcus smiled when he realized that even here, among an alien people, young minds dreamed the same way human children did. Over several days, Marcus met generals, administrators, engineers, and scientists. Each group questioned him, sometimes sharply but never disrespectfully. They asked what humanity wanted. They asked if humans could be loyal allies. They asked if humans could understand the weight of leadership. Marcus answered with honesty every time. He never pretended humanity was perfect. Instead, he focused on humanity's strengths: flexibility, innovation, and an ability to build peace after long conflict. Slowly, word of his responses spread throughout the hive. The Virathi, who originally saw him as weak, began to see that humans had strengths of a different kind. Not the strength of armored claws or centuries of war experience, but the strength to think without fear and speak without arrogance. One evening, Marcus was invited to observe a military readiness drill. It was not a combat demonstration, but a test of logistics and organization. Several thousand units moved with precision, checking equipment, communications, and medical support. During the drill, Marcus noticed something unusual. A storage area was receiving duplicate deliveries from separate supply lines. This would waste materials and slow operations if not corrected. Marcus quietly informed a nearby officer, who checked the data and confirmed the error. The officer was surprised Marcus had noticed something that had escaped the eyes of experienced staff. The correction was implemented immediately. The officer later reported the event to higher command. The next morning, Marcus was summoned again to the council chamber. The Queen addressed the assembled nobles and spoke of Marcus's observation. She explained that while Virathi warriors excelled in physical precision and discipline, Marcus had demonstrated another valuable skill: analytical strategy and organizational thinking. The queen said this proved that humanity could strengthen the empire, not by copying the Virathi, but by being different from them. Many nobles were impressed. Some even clicked their mandibles in respect. A gesture Marcus had learned was a positive sign. The queen then spoke directly to the council and announced her intention again. Marcus would serve beside her as a partner in shaping future policy. His leadership style, she explained, offered the empire something it had never truly embraced: adaptability. Marcus stood quietly, humbled by her words. He still had doubts, still wondered if he could handle such responsibility. But he also understood now that belonging to the hive did not mean losing humanity's identity. Instead, he could help build a bridge between species, where each side strengthened the other, without changing who they were. After the meeting, Marcus walked through the hive halls. This time, when Virathi passed him, their eyes held something new. Not suspicion, but recognition. They no longer saw him as an outsider who just arrived from a distant world. They saw someone who might actually belong. He returned to his quarters with a sense of clarity. Peace, unity, and cooperation were possible. The galaxy did not have to be shaped only by ancient traditions or endless cycles of expansion. The future could be built through trust and mutual respect. Marcus finally understood his role. He was not just a guest, not just a symbol. He was a catalyst for change, and whether he succeeded or failed would decide the fate of both civilizations. The Virathi hive was never a quiet place, but on the day of the Grand Council Assembly, it felt even more alive than usual. Workers moved quickly through shining corridors. Messengers hurried to communicate updates, and nobles arrived in ceremonial armor. Something important was going to happen, and everyone knew it. Word had spread across the entire hive. The queen planned to make a public declaration involving the human, Marcus Hale. Marcus prepared in his room while attendants helped him dress in formal garments. They were not Virathi armor, but robes designed in a mixture of human and Virathi style. When Marcus looked in the polished wall mirror, he felt unusual. He looked like himself, yet also like someone standing on the border between two civilizations. He wondered what the council expected him to be today. Some wanted him to become a symbol. Others wanted him to fail. Only a few hoped he would succeed. He took a deep breath and reminded himself of the promise he made to humanity. He was here to guide two societies toward peace and progress. Whatever he faced today, he had to speak with clarity and confidence. No turning back now. Virathi escorts arrived and led him through the hive toward the Grand Assembly Hall. As he walked, more citizens paused to look at him. Some showed respect. Some showed confusion. Some were not sure what to feel. He did not blame them. A human in the royal court was something no Virathi had seen in thousands of years. The assembly hall was enormous, a circular chamber with a ceiling so high it seemed to merge into darkness. Thousands of delegates filled the seats. The queen stood on a raised platform that glowed with soft amber light. When Marcus entered, the room fell silent. His footsteps echoed across the polished floor. The queen greeted him with a nod, and he bowed respectfully. She began speaking to the assembly, her voice amplified by the living structure of the hall itself. She reminded the Virathi that their empire had lasted countless generations and faced many challenges. But the greatest threat to any civilization was stagnation. If a society never changed, it eventually broke under its own weight. She then spoke about humanity. She told the crowd that humans, though young, showed courage and creativity. They did not seek conquest, yet they did not collapse under pressure. She explained that Marcus had already helped the hive improve operations simply by seeing things with fresh human perspective. This, she said, was proof that the empire could grow stronger through cooperation rather than domination. Many nobles murmured among themselves. They expected a major decision, and the queen soon delivered it. She raised a ceremonial staff and announced something that made every part of the hall fall completely silent. She declared that the next generation of Virathi leaders would be influenced by both Virathi and human values. She said that Marcus would stand beside her, not as a servant, but as a partner in guiding the future of the empire. Then, she spoke the words that would echo across the entire civilization. "My children will call you father, human." Marcus felt the weight of the moment. He understood that the queen was not talking about romance or personal relationships. She meant something political, cultural, and symbolic. In Virathi society, the one who guided the next generation with the queen was considered a parent figure to the empire. It was a title given only to someone the queen fully trusted. At first, the chamber erupted into whispers and debate. Some nobles were shocked. Others seemed angry or confused. But a growing number understood the importance of what she was offering. By choosing Marcus, the queen was showing confidence in humanity's ability to help shape a better future. Marcus waited for the noise to settle. When the queen gestured for him to speak, he stepped forward. He spoke slowly, in simple words, because he wanted no one to misunderstand. He said that when humanity first reached the stars, humans did not expect to face an ancient and powerful empire like the Virathi. They feared war, and yet the queen offered peace. He told the assembly that humans were new to the galaxy, but they learned fast. He promised that if the Virathi and humans worked together, both would grow stronger. He made it clear that leadership was not about commanding others, but about guiding people toward a better path. Some nobles nodded thoughtfully. Others stared with unreadable expressions. Marcus knew he could not convince everyone in a single speech, but he could speak honestly and respectfully. That alone could build trust over time. After he finished, one noble stepped forward. He was older, with armor marked by long years of service. Many recognized him as one of the strict traditionalists. Everyone expected him to challenge Marcus harshly. Instead, the noble surprised the room. He announced that while he still held doubts about humans, he had seen the changes Marcus already inspired. He admitted that the hive needed new perspectives. Then he said that if the queen believed Marcus could guide the next generation, he would not stand against her decision. His voice carried great weight, and dozens of other nobles followed his lead. The queen tapped her staff gently on the floor, a signal that the decision was official. The hive had accepted Marcus as future co-guiding parent of the empire's royal line. Marcus felt the reality settle on his shoulders. His life had changed completely. No human before him had ever carried such responsibility. After the assembly, the queen asked him to join her in a private council room. Without the formality of the throne hall, she spoke more openly. She told Marcus that her announcement was not just political strategy. She believed the empire needed more than discipline and tradition. It needed flexibility, curiosity, and new thinkers. She believed humanity possessed those qualities. Marcus asked if she felt any regret for choosing such a bold path. The queen answered, without hesitation. She said that leaders who feared change did not deserve to lead. She told him that the hive must learn to grow beyond old cycles. She then asked Marcus if he feared the burden placed upon him. Marcus admitted that he did. He said he was only human, without the experience or lifespan of a Virathi queen. She answered that leadership was not measured in years, but in decisions. She said that a single good decision at the right moment could save generations. Marcus realized he did not need to be perfect. He only needed to be dedicated, thoughtful, and honest. As they spoke, a message arrived from the lower hive levels. It informed them that a foreign empire had begun increasing fleet activity near Virathi borders. Many worried it was a sign of possible invasion. The queen turned to Marcus and said this was the first real test of their alliance. He would now see whether cooperation could prevent conflict. Marcus felt his nervousness return, but he also felt determination. He had agreed to help shape the empire's future, and the future was already calling. He prepared himself to face the challenge ahead, knowing that billions of lives depended on the choices he and the Queen would soon make together. News of the foreign fleet movement spread through the hive within hours. The Vrathi were an organized and disciplined people, and their systems reacted quickly. Officers reviewed star maps, analysts checked communication logs, and diplomats gathered recent intelligence. While no attack had happened yet, everyone understood that a neighboring empire increasing ships near their borders was rarely a friendly gesture. The Vrathi had seen this pattern many times in history. Marcus Hale, however, had never experienced a galactic political situation this large, and he knew he would have much to learn in a short amount of time. The Queen summoned Marcus to the command hall, a chamber filled with long tactical displays and real-time star charts. When Marcus arrived, high-ranking generals and strategic officers were already gathered. They stood around a holographic map showing the position of the foreign fleets. Their uniforms and armor reflected their roles. Some carried the markings of Space Command, others planetary defense, and a few the delicate symbols of diplomatic office. They were professionals accustomed to acting quickly and decisively. When Marcus entered, their attention shifted toward him. Weeks ago, some might have ignored him. Now, after his speeches and decisions, most respected him, even if they did not always agree with him. The Queen welcomed him and explained the situation. A neighboring empire, the Shalar Dominion, had recently increased patrols and battle groups near Vrathi borders. The Shalar and Vrathi had rarely interacted directly, but many suspected they viewed the Vrathi's new alliance with humanity as a potential threat. The galaxy was always changing, and political shifts often caused unease. Marcus listened carefully as the commanders described the situation. No shots had been fired, no territory had been invaded, and no official declaration of hostility had been made. But increased fleet presence could strain relations and lead to misunderstandings. If someone panicked, a small accident could escalate into a large crisis. Marcus understood that in politics, fear was sometimes more dangerous than weapons. He asked the Queen what she planned to do. She explained that the Vrathi were preparing defensive formations, but she wanted to avoid war if possible. War had been the answer many times in Vrathi history, but she did not want the first major decision of her alliance with humanity to be another traditional military response. She wanted Marcus's perspective on how to handle the situation. The room became quiet, waiting for his answer. Marcus took a moment to think. He studied the map of fleet movements and realized something unusual. The foreign ships were not lined up in an attack formation. They were spread across multiple sectors, too dispersed to launch a coordinated strike. To him, it looked more like observation and testing rather than preparation for battle. He shared this observation with the room. Several generals leaned in to study the map again, surprised they had not noticed this themselves. Marcus then suggested a combined approach. First, the Vrathi fleet should remain ready, so the Shalar Dominion could not mistake diplomacy for weakness. But instead of responding with equal military escalation, Marcus proposed opening communication channels and inviting the Shalar to formal talks. The objective was simple: show confidence without aggression. If the Shalar were nervous about the new alliance, they should see the Vrathi and humanity as stable partners, not expanding threats. Some officers hesitated. The idea of reaching out first felt unusual, even risky. But the Queen supported Marcus's proposal. She reminded the council that giving others a chance to speak did not weaken the hive. It strengthened the possibility of peaceful understanding. She ordered preparations for diplomatic outreach and agreed to have Marcus lead the communication effort. Later that day, Marcus and a team of Vrathi diplomats entered a communication chamber designed for interstellar transmission. The room glowed with soft lights, and communication pillars rose from the floor like smooth metallic trees. Marcus recorded a message addressed to the Shalar Dominion. He spoke honestly and calmly, expressing that the Vrathi and humans were preparing to build a future based on cooperation, not conquest. He invited Shala representatives to a neutral station for open dialogue. He sent the message across official channels and waited. For hours, there was no answer. While they waited, Marcus walked among the command hall staff and listened as they discussed battle readiness and resource allocation. He understood that this was what leadership truly meant, being ready for peace while prepared for conflict, but never letting fear make the final decision. The Queen saw him watching the activity and approached. She asked if he was nervous. Marcus admitted he was, but he also believed dialogue was worth trying before anything else. Finally, the reply arrived from the Shalar Dominion. Their message was cautious, but not hostile. They expressed surprise at the rapid political changes within the Varathi Empire and admitted they were uncertain of the intentions behind the new alliance. They agreed to send diplomats to the neutral station in 5 days. The room relaxed slightly. It was not peace, but it was a path away from potential disaster. Marcus began planning for the diplomatic meeting. He studied Shalar history and political structure. They were a technologically advanced empire, known for precise negotiations and long memory. They respected strength, but they also respected logic and reason. Marcus understood that he needed to show both. Before the meeting day, Marcus met again with the Queen. She told him that the galaxy was watching their next step. If the talks failed, other empires might feel nervous too. Everyone paid attention when ancient powers changed direction. Marcus assured her he would do his best. The journey to the neutral station was quiet, but intense. Marcus traveled with a small diplomatic team and several advisors. The Varathi ships surrounding them maintained standard formation, not aggressive but clearly ready to protect their diplomats if needed. Marcus spent most of the flight reviewing strategic points and potential misunderstandings. He wanted to avoid even the appearance of arrogance or desperation. When they arrived, the station was neutral and peaceful. Its halls were metallic and elegant, without any markings of either empire. Shalar representatives arrived soon after. They were tall, humanoid beings with smooth, silver-blue skin and calm expressions. Their clothing was sharp and precise, like everything about their culture. The meeting began in a large room with a long oval table. Marcus and the Shalar diplomats exchanged formal greetings. The Shalar spoke first, explaining their concerns. They feared that the Varathi, historically a conquering empire, might use human creativity and resources to expand further. Marcus listened respectfully before responding. He explained that the new alliance was built on cooperation and internal reform, not external conquest. He admitted openly that the Varathi had a strong military tradition, but emphasized that both humans and the Queen wanted a future based on stability and mutual growth. The Shalar diplomats were cautious but not dismissive. They asked questions about resource sharing, cultural influence, and political balance. Marcus answered clearly and calmly, never promising anything unrealistic. The meeting lasted many hours. Finally, one of the Shalar diplomats leaned back and said that while they were still uncertain, they no longer felt immediate threat. They agreed to continue monitoring the alliance but would not escalate military presence for now. When Marcus returned to the Varathi flagship, the command hall greeted him with quiet satisfaction. They had avoided a crisis without a single weapon fired. The Queen told Marcus that his success proved something valuable. The hive could still defend itself, but now it could also adapt and communicate in ways it never had before. It was a small victory, but an important one. Marcus felt both relief and renewed responsibility. The galaxy was changing, and he was in the center of that change. He knew future challenges would come, and not all would be solved as peacefully. But for now, humanity and the Varathi had taken their first step toward becoming a united force in the galaxy's future. The days following the diplomatic meeting with the Shalar Dominion were filled with cautious optimism. The galaxy had expected conflict, perhaps even a balancing of military forces across entire star systems. Instead, they witnessed something rare. Two major powers, choosing dialogue over escalation. News spread quickly through trading networks, communication relays, and neutral stations. For the first time in a long age, the Vrathi swarm was not simply feared. They were respected for choosing a path of reason, and Marcus Hale's name traveled alongside that change. Inside the hive, life began to adjust. Officers and workers continued their duties, but conversations now included new topics, human policy strategies, shared development plans, and ideas for future cooperation with other civilizations. Humans were still unusual to them, but the hive was learning that strength came in many different forms. What began as skepticism slowly turned into curiosity and, in some cases, admiration. Marcus continued working daily alongside the Queen. Their meetings often lasted long hours, discussing how the alliance with humanity should be shaped. The Queen always listened with patience and intent. She did not agree with Marcus on every point, but she valued his honesty and perspective. He appreciated that she never tried to control his voice or silence his concerns. Their partnership grew out of mutual respect, not fear or hierarchy. One evening, after a long council session, the Queen walked with Marcus along a balcony overlooking the hive's great city levels. Below them, glowing paths carried workers and transports smoothly in organized lanes. The air was filled with soft sounds of communication, industry, and life. The Queen spoke quietly, almost reflecting to herself, saying that the hive had always believed power must come from obedience and structure. But now she realized another truth. Power also came from understanding others. Marcus looked out across the bustling hive and said that humanity had learned similar lessons. Humans had once built civilizations that rose and fell because they refused to change. History warned that strength without wisdom was fragile. The Queen gave a rare, small smile and told him that this was exactly why she had chosen him. He carried the weight of humanity's history on his shoulders, but he did not let it crush him. Instead, he used it to guide his decisions. Word soon came that the council wanted to hold a formal recognition ceremony to solidify Marcus's position within the empire. Traditionally, such a ceremony was given to important figures who shaped an era or contributed to the future of the hive. For a foreigner to receive such an honor was almost unheard of. Some still questioned whether it was too soon, but most agreed the galaxy had already changed because of Marcus's actions. Marcus prepared for the ceremony with mixed emotions. He felt proud, but also humbled. He tried to remind himself that he was only one person. If he had succeeded, it was not for personal glory but to lay a foundation for peace and growth. Still, he could not deny that the ceremony would be remembered in Vrathi history. On the day of the ceremony, thousands gathered in the grand hall. The Queen stood upon the central platform, joined by high-ranking nobles, commanders, scholars, and representatives from distant hive colonies. Marcus walked forward alone. He felt the weight of countless eyes, but he stood straight, every step quiet and measured. Attendants struck ceremonial tones on crystal plates that echoed through the hall, like singing metal. When Marcus reached the platform, the Queen raised her staff and addressed the crowd. She spoke of the hive's long journey through the stars, the many victories it had claimed, and the challenges that shaped its identity. She reminded them that an empire did not grow great by repeating the same actions forever. She said that leaders must recognize when change was necessary, even if it made others uncomfortable. She turned toward Marcus and stated that he represented not only another species, but a new chapter in their civilization. She spoke of how he saw problems differently, how he questioned patterns the hive had taken for granted, and how his voice had opened paths the swarm had never tried before. Then she repeated publicly what she had once said privately. Marcus Hale was no longer a visitor, nor a guest, but a guiding force for future generations. Her children, the future of the empire, would learn under both her teachings and his. Marcus bowed his head in acknowledgement. When it was his turn to speak, he kept his words simple, because simplicity made truth easier to understand. He told the crowd that he had never planned to become part of an alien empire. He had been a single representative from a young world, unsure whether humanity would even survive first contact. But he spoke of what he learned about the Vrathi. They were disciplined, proud, hard-working, dedicated, and capable of loyalty and intelligence that deserved respect. He said that humans and Vrathi were not the same, but they shared the same basic hope, a future where their people could live with stability and dignity. He added that leadership was not about commanding others, but about guiding them in the right direction. He reminded everyone that peace was not a sign of weakness, and that cooperation could be just as powerful as strength. Many in the crowd listened with silent intensity. Some nodded in agreement. Others appeared thoughtful, but no one dismissed his words. At the end of the ceremony, the Queen placed the ceremonial signet of office in Marcus's hands. It was a symbol of responsibility and trust. The hall echoed with the unified sound of Vrathi mandibles clicking together in recognition, a sound rarely given to outsiders. In that moment, Marcus truly became part of the Hive's future. In the days that followed, Marcus felt new expectations settle upon him. People from across the Hive came seeking advice, proposals, and perspectives. Workers wanted to know how humans designed their cities. Military commanders asked how he would train a united defense. Scholars wanted to learn human political systems, philosophy, and history. Marcus realized something important. The Hive was not just listening to him, its people were learning from him, and he was learning from them. Meanwhile, on Earth, messages arrived from human leaders. Some expressed excitement, others worry. Many could not fully understand the scale of the alliance Marcus had formed. Humanity had gone from unknown newcomers to partners in one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. Marcus prepared reports, explaining that this alliance was an opportunity, not a threat. He reminded Earth that every relationship required trust from both sides. As time passed, Marcus found himself at the center of new initiatives. Projects began combining human and Vrathi engineering. A scientific exchange opened, allowing both civilizations to share technological advances. Diplomats from other star systems reached out, curious about the new united front forming in the galaxy. Slowly, the reputation of the Vrathi shifted. They were still powerful, but now they were also seen as willing to build, not just command. Marcus often found quiet moments to reflect. He remembered when he first entered the Hive, unsure whether he would even survive the day. Now, he walked hallways, where people greeted him with respect. The Queen had once described him as a catalyst for change. He believed that was true, but he also believed anyone could be a catalyst if they chose understanding over fear. One evening, standing on the balcony once again, Marcus looked at the stars above the Hive. The Queen joined him silently. They did not need to speak. Both understood what they had achieved together. This was not the end of a journey but the beginning of a new era. There would be challenges ahead, and not every empire would welcome the change they symbolized. But they had proven that ancient traditions could evolve, that different worlds could learn from each other, and that peace could be forged not through conquest, but through shared vision. Marcus Hale, once just a diplomatic officer from Earth, had become something greater. A partner in shaping destiny. The Hive had given him a place not through force, but through responsibility and trust. The future would judge their decisions. But for now, the galaxy moved forward with new possibilities, and Marcus, standing beside the Queen, felt ready to face whatever came next.